ready for our next presenter. Shomodip is a visiting PhD researcher through the Erasmus Plus Global Mobility Program, and we're so lucky as to have him here for this year. He's visiting us from the Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, and he is working on the synthesis of anisotropic gold nanoparticles in a two-phase flow using millifluidic reactors. But today, he's going to be talking about a smart way to destabilize emulsions.
Thanks, Vanya, for the introduction. Hello, I'm Shomadev, and I'm here to tell you about a smart way to destabilize emulsions. So, what are emulsions? Well, today you might have a sandwich which you might have had in the lunch, and it might have had a mayo in it. So, yeah, and then you might have taken a shower today, and you might have used shampoo. You might have used body moisturizer for getting rid of the dry skin in this weather. What is common in all three of this are emulsions. But what basically are emulsions and how do we make them? So say you have two liquids which are like immiscible. So because of their density differences, they would love to stay apart from each other. But say you want one seemingly homogeneous phase out of them. So how do we do that? To do that, we break one of the phases into tiny droplets and dispose them into another phase. And hence, we obtain an emulsion. But this is how it looks in reality, where you have two different phases, and then you form one seemingly homogeneous phase. And to tell you that I'm not kidding, I have a proof of a micrograph to say that the emulsion phase consists of tiny droplets. But why do we need to destabilize them? I'll give you an example. So say in crude oil extraction, where there are spontaneous emulsions formed, you need to destabilize them in order to recover your oil. Otherwise, you'll have huge oil sample losses. And also it will affect the aquatic life. Another example, you say for lipid extraction from microalgae, similar spontaneous emulsions are formed. And in order to recover biodiesel from it, you will have to destabilize them. Another example in this Pickering interfacial catalysis, which might sound a very high techie term, but it's not actually. So it's basically forming droplets and doing reactions on the surface of the droplets. So once you're done with the reactions, you would want to recover the product and the catalyst. So in order to recover the product and the catalyst, you will have to destabilize the emulsions, and so on. But let's geek a little bit about emulsions to understand what they actually are and how do we destabilize them. So say when you try to break one of the phases into tiny droplets, what happens? The droplets freak out. And why do they freak out? So this happens because when you try to break one of the phases into tiny droplets, the overpressure inside the droplet increases massively as you go more and more tinier in the radius. And this is given by the Laplace's equation. And well, when more and more tinier droplets form, the overpressure increases, and this makes the droplet more and more unstable, and they freak out. So what would they do? They would come together and hug each other. And this is nothing but we call as coalescence. So whenever you try to form more and more tinier droplets, they are more prone to come together, hug each other, form bigger droplets, and phase out, forming phase separation, giving you phase separation. So it's impossible to form emulsions that way because of these two phases wanting to stay away from each other. So how do you stabilize emulsions then? We use something called surfactant. So surfactant is nothing but a molecule which has dual nature in its body. So say one part, the head of the surfactant loves water, whereas the tail of the surfactant loves oil. So when you have this surfactant, and because of its dual nature in the body, it would love to stay at the interface. And because of it staying at the interface and accumulating at the interface, what it would do is reduce the interfacial tension of the interface. But what happens if you decrease the interfacial tension? So now when these drops freak out and you have surfactants at the interface, they form a cozy and nice jacket around them. So this would stop these droplets from freaking out, and they would happily stay apart while not freaking out, and because of this cozy jacket, which is nothing but the surfactants accumulating at the interface. And what is happening here actually is that you're reducing the interfacial tension, hence you're getting rid of the high overpressure which is forming because of forming tiny, tiny droplets. But what is so smart about the surfactants? These were very normal surfactants. How do we make them smart? We do that by adding the smarty pant to it. And what are these smarty pants? The smarty pants are nothing but these are azobenzene molecules, which basically are photoactive. So the amazing feature, the amazing nature of these molecules is such that when you expose them to UV light, they undergo conformational changes, say from trans to cis. And when this happens, you can confirm that. We do that in the lab by using a UV spectrophotometer. So now say you make emulsions with the smart surfactants, and while they are stable, they would happily stabilize the interface and hence the emulsion. But now when you suddenly irradiate light on these droplets, let's see what happens. So now when this you suddenly switch on the light, the UV light on these droplets, the jackets start to break off. And well, some droplets might be from Trondheim and they might not know what light is. So when this jacket starts to break off, what happens is this drop starts to freak out again, and they start to become more and more unstable. So what happens is the interfacial tension starts to shoot up. So does the overpressure, and so does the surface energy. And what would happen if this takes place? So these drops would come together and hug again. These droplets would coalesce, and bigger droplets would form, and eventually they will phase out. And hence you will obtain a phase separation of your emulsions. And well, this is what is required in reality, where if we have a stable emulsion, we would want to destabilize them using light. Thank you. I would be happy to take any questions. Yes, please.
Thank you. And